Welcome to the Stoic Tide. Have you ever wondered what truly happens when a man finally stops trying to convince a woman of his worth and instead becomes the version of himself she never believed he could rise into? Not the loud version, not the emotional version, not the desperate or wounded version, but the quiet, controlled, disciplined, centered version. The version forged in solitude, sharpened by silence, and elevated by reflection. Because there is a rare, almost spiritual art form to letting a woman regret everything she once mishandled. And it's not about revenge. It's not about proving a point. It's not about showing her she was wrong. It is about showing yourself who you were always meant to be. A Stoic man does not chase regret. He creates it through contrast, through the undeniable difference between the man he used to be and the man he becomes after letting go. It is in that contrast, that growth, that sharp upward trajectory of purpose and focus where regret blooms inside her like a seed planted in silence. Because she doesn't regret losing the man you were, she regrets losing the man you became once you finally walked away. And that transformation, that quiet but powerful unfolding of self-respect, is the very thing she never prepared herself for. Most people believe regret comes from loss itself, but a Stoic knows the truth. Regret is born from witnessing someone evolve beyond the version of themselves you once underestimated. Regret is born from watching a man you discarded rise higher without you. Regret is born from seeing him calm, focused, grounded, and emotionally untouchable. Regret is born from realizing he never needed you to become the man he was destined to be. And it is born from understanding painfully and silently that she was not the muse of his growth, but the catalyst of it. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." And when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop proving, chasing, correcting, or convincing, your silence becomes the truest statement you ever make. It tells her, "I am no longer a man who seeks validation outside himself. I am no longer shaped by rejection. I am no longer tethered to your perception of me." Your silence becomes the doorway into your elevation and the window through which she watches your ascent. This is the art of letting her regret everything. You don't force regret. You become the kind of man whose absence is irreplaceable, whose growth is undeniable, and whose presence she never earned the right to keep. And if you're ready to understand this art, not through ego, not through manipulation, but through quiet, unstoppable transformation, like this video, subscribe, and comment below. I rise in silence, not as a phrase, but as a declaration. Now let's begin. There comes a moment in every man's life when he finally realizes the truth he ignored for far too long. She didn't lose interest because you were unworthy. She lost interest because she underestimated the man you were becoming, and this realization doesn't hit you all at once. It arrives slowly, piece by piece in the silence after she walks away. In the quiet nights when you're no longer fighting for something that was draining you. In the introspective stillness where your mind finally has room to breathe. That's when you begin to see clearly. She wasn't responding to your value. She was responding to the version of yourself you used to be. The version that overgave, the version that chased, the version that wanted her more than he wanted his own peace. But here's the Stoic truth most men don't realize until too late. She didn't reject the man you are. She rejected the man you were in that moment. And those are not the same man. Not even close. Because once she leaves, once her attention drifts, once she takes your consistency for granted, a transformation begins inside you that she never gets to witness. The rebuilding, the recalibrating, the restructuring of your identity from the inside out. You begin to grow in the silence she expected to break you. You begin to sharpen in the solitude she thought would weaken you. You begin to reclaim pieces of yourself you hadn't touched in years. And as this inner metamorphosis begins, you start seeing that her choice wasn't a verdict on your worth. It was a reflection of her inability to foresee the kind of man you were capable of becoming. Marcus Aurelius said, "The opinion of others is not your concern, but ironically it's your opinion of you, or rather the limits she placed on you that becomes the fuel for your evolution." She believed you were static, predictable, contained. She thought she knew your ceiling. She thought you were exactly who you showed up as in your lowest emotional state. And that is the mistake that leads to regret every single time. She judged you by your temporary weakness, not your permanent potential. And the moment you step into that potential, the moment you stop waiting for her, stop chasing her, stop clinging to the version of yourself she preferred, she begins to feel the first tremors of what's coming. She may not say it. She may not show it. She may not admit it. But inside, somewhere in the quiet corners of her mind, she can sense something shifting. You're slipping out of the version she once controlled and stepping into the version she can no longer reach. This is the first shift. The moment you wake up and realize she didn't see the future man in you, and that mistake will cost her more than it ever cost you. There is a very specific moment, quiet, subtle, and impossible to ignore, when your absence stops being a reaction and starts becoming a mirror. Not a mirror that reflects who you were when she left, but a mirror that reflects what she did, what she overlooked, and what she never understood about you until it was far too late. Because the truth is simple. No one realizes the depth of your presence until they feel the weight of your absence, and absence has a way of illuminating every mistake she once dismissed, minimized, or justified. At first, she doesn't feel anything. The world still spins, the distractions still entertain, the ego still reassures you that you'll come back because you always did. But as time passes, time filled with your silence, your restraint, your refusal to look backward, cracks begin forming in the history she told herself. The illusion of you'll always be there begins to fade. The comfort of he needs me more than I need him begins to wobble. The expectation that you would eventually fold begins to collapse under the weight of your new discipline. And it is in that collapse that her mistakes begin to surface. She remembers the times she ignored your effort. She remembers the times you opened your heart and she acted numb. She remembers the nights you were loyal while she was uncertain. She remembers the moments you needed reassurance, and she gave you silence instead. She remembers the love you gave freely, the kind she thought she could always return to whenever she wanted. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." And that is exactly what she begins to understand. She has no power over the silence you now command. Your absence becomes a force she cannot negotiate with, cannot argue with, cannot undo. It forces her to confront everything she avoided facing when your presence distracted her from her own decisions. And here's the part most men never see. Your absence exposes her decisions more brutally than your words ever could. Because in silence, there is no debate, no excuse, no defense, no manipulation. There is only the truth. The truth of what she did and who she was while you were giving your all. She begins to see the imbalance she once brushed off. She begins to recognize the immaturity she hid behind. She begins to confront the selfishness she justified. She begins to understand the emotional safety you gave, the safety she mistook for weakness. And the irony is devastating. She didn't regret losing you when you were there. She regrets losing you when she realizes you're not coming back. The longer you stay silent, the louder her conscience becomes. The deeper your absence grows, the sharper her memories become. The more you rise, the more she sees how far beneath your new reality her old behavior really was. This is the second shift. The moment your absence becomes the teacher she never wanted, and the mirror she cannot escape. There comes a moment in a man's journey when the silence he once feared becomes the soil in which he rebuilds himself. And in that rebuilding, he becomes unrecognizable even to the woman who once believed she knew him. Because once, your absence begins confronting her with the reality of her mistakes. Something even more powerful begins happening behind the scenes. You start to evolve in ways she never imagined, never predicted, and never prepared herself for. And the most poetic part of it all is this. You are not growing to hurt her or to get her attention, and this is where you begin living in a way you never did, while entangled in a connection that drained you. Your transformation starts quietly, almost invisibly. You begin taking care of your body in a way you hadn't during the relationship. You begin investing in your mind, reading, learning, absorbing knowledge. You begin strengthening your spirit through discipline, meditation, stoic reflection. Your goals take shape. Your purpose sharpens. Your standards rise. And life responds to this shift. You walk differently, slower, heavier, more intentional. You speak differently, less frequently, but with more weight. Your presence becomes calmer but paradoxically more powerful. People notice, strangers notice, but the person who notices most is her. Not because you flaunt it, not because you try to show her, but because the energy she once recognized is no longer there. You are not the same man she left. You are not the same man who tolerated the bare minimum. You are not the same man who sought reassurance from someone inconsistent. You are not the same man who lowered his standards in the hope of being chosen. You are becoming a man who is not shaped by rejection, but strengthened by it. A man who is not softened by heartbreak, but sharpened by it. A man who is not diminished by loss, but expanded because of it. And here's the part that hits her deepest. Your transformation has nothing to do with her anymore. It is for you. It is because of you. It is driven by the realization that you survived what you thought would break you. And now nothing can stop you from becoming the fullest, strongest version of yourself. This is the third shift. The moment your silence becomes not just distance but metamorphosis, and every step you take forward widens the gap between the man she lost and the man she will never have access to again. There is a shift inside her that doesn't show up in her posts, her stories, her photos, or her surface-level confidence. A shift she will never admit, but one she can't escape. It begins the moment she feels the emotional distance between who you were and who you are becoming. It begins the moment she realizes your silence is no longer fueled by pain, but by growth. At first, she ignores it. She tries to distract herself with noise, validation, attention, or routine. But distractions only delay regret. They never erase it. And eventually, she senses something she never expected. You are no longer orbiting around her. There is an energetic gap now. A gap that wasn't there before. A gap she can feel in the way you don't watch her stories. A gap she can feel in the way you don't break your silence. A gap she can feel in the way your presence no longer lingers in her life. A gap she can feel in the way your energy is pulled so far back that she no longer knows where you stand, how you feel, or who you're becoming. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." And that is exactly what terrifies her now. Your mind is calmer than ever. Your emotions are steadier than ever. Your silence is stronger than ever. She can sense the difference without you saying a single word. You used to respond quickly. You used to care loudly. You used to reach out when things felt off. But now nothing. Not bitterness, not anger, not pleading, just distance. Pure, disciplined, unwavering distance. And that distance starts whispering questions into her mind that she can't silence. Questions she never expected to ask. Why isn't he reaching out? Why doesn't he seem affected? Why does he look happier without me? Who is he becoming without my influence? What if I seriously misjudged him? These questions are the seeds of regret. Not sudden, not dramatic, but slow-growing, deeply rooted and impossible to remove once they're planted. She starts replaying the relationship with different eyes. Now she remembers your loyalty, your effort, your consistency, your depth, your patience, the emotional safety you offered without question. And as she watches your silence deepen into a new identity, she begins to realize the one truth that always arrives too late. The man she took for granted was the man she actually needed, and now he's becoming someone she no longer has access to. Your silence becomes the proof. Your distance becomes the evidence. Your growth becomes the closure. This is the fourth shift. The moment she stops feeling above you and starts feeling the loss of you in ways she never expected. There comes a moment, always later than she expects, always quieter than she admits, when she finally understands that the man she walked away from wasn't ordinary. He was rare. Not rare in the superficial sense. Not rare because you were flawless or perfect, but rare because of the qualities she didn't recognize until she could no longer access them. And this realization does not hit her all at once. It creeps in slowly like the dimming of a sunset, one shade at a time until darkness fills the sky. At first, she tries to replace the connection. She tries to find your presence in someone else. She hunts for your emotional depth in another man's eyes. She searches for your consistency, your loyalty, your stability, your uncommon heart, the very traits she once shrugged off with casual indifference. But the world does not hand out men like you easily, and when she looks around and realizes that people don't show up the way you did, she begins to feel a discomfort she cannot name, a subtle ache, a hollow recognition, a growing tension in her chest. It is the beginning of her understanding that your love wasn't typical. It was a privilege. Marcus Aurelius said, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you look. And while you are discovering that strength within yourself, she is discovering something else entirely. That the strength, steadiness, and loyalty you gave her were the rarest things she will ever encounter. And she let them slip away. She remembers the way you listened without judgment, the way you cared without conditions, the way you stayed loyal even when you were hurting, the way you protected what you felt, the way you brought peace into chaos, the way you stood by her even when she didn't deserve it. And now no one else does that. No one else shows up with that level of character. No one else makes her feel emotionally safe. No one else has that mixture of compassion and masculine restraint. No one else is you. And underneath her confidence, underneath the bravado, underneath the facade, she knows this. It begins eating at her quietly, relentlessly, deeply, because the truth she never expected to face is now staring at her with undeniable clarity. You weren't the man she settled for. You were the man she should have fought to keep. This realization doesn't flatter her ego. It wounds it. It humbles it. It fractures the certainty she once stood on. Your silence, your growth, your new energy. They all remind her of the man she misjudged and the man she will never have access to again. And that is the exact moment where regret stops being a possibility and becomes her reality. This is the fifth shift. The moment she realizes the rare man she overlooked is now becoming even rarer, and he is no longer hers to reach. There is a stage of regret that doesn't live in her mind anymore. It lives in her heart. And once regret reaches the heart, it no longer whispers. It aches. At first she tried to rationalize losing you. She told herself stories to soften the blow. She created explanations to protect her pride. She leaned on distractions to keep herself from feeling the truth. But emotional reality has a way of catching up to a person slowly, quietly, and then all at once. And when it finally catches her, it hits with a force she never anticipated. It begins with unexpected feelings, emotions she can't articulate, moments where she feels tense for no reason, sudden waves of memory that appear out of nowhere. A song, a scent, a place, a simple thought, anything can trigger it. And when it hits, she feels something she didn't feel when you were still reachable. Loss, not inconvenience, not confusion, not frustration. Actual undeniable loss. This is where the emotional regret begins to take form. She no longer wonders about you casually. She thinks about you intensely. She no longer imagines you waiting. She worries you've moved on. She no longer sees your silence as temporary. She feels it as permanent. She no longer remembers your weaknesses. She remembers your strength. She no longer recalls the small conflicts. She recalls the stability you brought. And this shift is devastating for one reason. She realizes she misread the breakup entirely. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And now her thoughts are dyed with longing, with guilt, with reflection, with the unmistakable sense that she has lost something meaningful. Not because you broke, but because you didn't. She starts to feel your absence in places she didn't expect, in moments of stress, when she wishes she had someone calm to talk to, in moments of joy, when she wishes she had someone steady to celebrate with, in moments of doubt, when she wishes she had someone grounded to reassure her, in moments of emptiness when she realizes the attention she receives now is shallow, scattered, meaningless, and slowly her regret becomes emotional, not because she suddenly wants you back, but because she finally understands what she lost. A man who was loyal when she was uncertain. A man who was consistent when she was chaotic. A man who was genuine in a world full of shallow connections. A man whose heart she only learned to value after she broke it. And here's the part she struggles with the most. She does not know how to fix it. The moment regret stops being an idea and becomes a feeling that touches every corner of her emotional world. A feeling she can no longer ignore, run from, or silence. She felt your presence when she had you. She feels your absence now that she's lost you. But now she begins to feel something even deeper. The weight of a connection she never appreciated. And the pain of a man she will never experience again. There comes a moment inevitable, brutal and deeply humbling when she stops comparing you to other men and starts comparing herself to the man you are becoming. And this is the kind of realization that doesn't wound her pride on the surface. It fractures her from the inside. Because up until now, her regret has been emotional and internal. But once she sees your growth, your elevation, the strength in your silence, the discipline in your actions, the focus in your eyes, she begins to understand something that hits her harder than the loss itself. You are surpassing the version of yourself she thought she could manipulate, control, or outgrow. This realization usually hits her in a sudden, unexpected moment. She sees a picture of you looking better than before. She hears about something you accomplished. She notices the calm confidence in your posture. She hears from others that you seem different, more mature, more grounded, more directed, or she simply senses your energy shifting in ways she can't quite explain. And that's when the self-comparison begins, the kind she cannot escape. She starts asking herself questions she never imagined she would be asking about you. Why does he look stronger now? Why does he seem happier without me? Who is he becoming? Why does he look more confident, more composed, more complete? How did he grow so much? And I stayed the same. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions," and she sees your ambitions rising while hers remain stagnant. She sees your focus sharpening while hers gets scattered. She sees your discipline strengthening while hers wavers. She sees your emotional control expanding while hers deteriorates into anxiety and confusion. It's not just that she regrets losing you. She regrets not growing with you, not matching your elevation, not rising alongside you, not realizing that the man she took for granted would one day outgrow not just the relationship, but her entire level of being. Because here's the truth that hits the deepest. Your evolution highlights her lack of it. Your silence shows her discipline. Your growth shows her stagnation. Your calm shows her emotional instability. Your progress shows her hesitation. Your new standards show her old behavior. And the more you ascend into the man you were meant to be, the more she feels herself shrinking next to you. Not because you do anything to diminish her, but because growth always reveals who stayed small. She expected you to struggle without her. Instead, you upgraded. She expected you to wait. Instead, you evolved. She expected you toned her. Instead, you needed yourself. And that difference, that chasm between your path and hers, becomes the most uncomfortable realization of all. She is no longer on your level, and she may never be again. This is the seventh shift. The moment your transformation becomes so undeniable that she can no longer hide from the truth. You didn't just move on, you moved up. And now the version of you she once felt superior to now stands above the version of her she can't escape. There is a point on every man's journey where he becomes so centered, so composed, so internally fortified that the woman who once had emotional access to him suddenly finds herself locked out of a world she used to walk through freely. This is not intentional. This is not revenge. This is not pettiness. This is the natural consequence of evolution. Because as you keep rising in your discipline, your resilience, your standards, your purpose, you become a different man entirely. Not the man she walked away from. Not the man she argued with. Not the man she underestimated, but a man who has outgrown the emotional ecosystem she once shared with you. Your silence has transformed into presence, your detachment into groundedness, your healing into power, your solitude into identity. The man you are becoming moves differently. You walk with intention. You speak with weight. You protect your peace with unwavering boundaries. You choose your connections carefully. You pursue purpose over petty emotion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And that is exactly who you've become. You are unlike the version of yourself that she hurt. Stronger, wiser, calmer, more immovable, more aligned. And this new identity carries something she wasn't prepared for. Emotional unavailability. Not as a defense, but as a natural result of self-respect. She can sense it without speaking to you. She can feel it without seeing you. Your energy has shifted into something elevated, sovereign, and self-contained. You're not waiting for her anymore. You're not hoping anymore. You're not reacting anymore. You're not holding emotional space for her anymore. And this unnerves her deeply because for the first time she realizes that your identity is no longer intertwined with hers. She no longer has influence. She no longer has access. She no longer has the emotional shortcuts she once relied in to pull you back into her orbit. The door she once walked through so easily is now closed. Not locked, not barricaded, but simply not hers to open anymore. You have become a man of standards, not impulses. A man of discipline, not desperation. A man of purpose, not pursuit. A man of ownership, not attachment. And this is where the deepest regret blooms inside her. She realizes the version of you she wanted back no longer exists. You outgrew the version of yourself that still loved her. You outgrew the version of yourself that needed her. You outgrew the version of yourself that wanted her to understand. And now she sees a man she cannot reach because he is too busy reaching for a higher life than the one she was part of. This is the eighth shift. The moment you become a man who is not just distant but different. A man she remembers vividly but can no longer access at all. In the end, the art of letting her regret everything is not about punishing her. It's about freeing yourself. Because regret is not something you create through anger, revenge, or manipulation. Regret is something she creates within herself when she finally sees the truth she avoided. That the man she walked away from has become the man she wishes she had never lost. And the irony, the poetry, the quiet justice of it all is this. Her regret is not your victory. Your evolution is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And your thoughts have changed. Your heart has changed. Your identity has changed. You have risen into someone she no longer recognizes, and someone she never imagined you could become. You no longer crave her validation. You no longer chase her approval. You no longer wait for closure. You no longer search for what is already gone because you've discovered something far more powerful than getting her back. You've discovered yourself. Your purpose is clearer. Your boundaries are stronger. Your mind is sharper. Your spirit is calmer. Your presence is heavier. Your standards are higher. And she feels that difference not because you told her, but because your silence tells the entire story. Your life no longer circles around her memory. Your emotions no longer bow to her influence. Your future no longer includes the chaos you once tolerated. You've broken the pattern. You've elevated your identity. You've reclaimed your power. And this is what makes you regret everything. You didn't become colder. You became wiser. You didn't become closed off. You became selective. You didn't become bitter. You became mature. You didn't lose yourself. You found the version of you she was never ready to meet. Her regret is not your burden. It's her lesson. Your evolution is not her punishment. It's your liberation. Her realization is not for you to respond to. It's for her to live with. You let her regret everything, not by forcing anything, but by rising into a life where she no longer fits. And if you're walking this path, if you are choosing silence over chaos, discipline over emotion, self-respect over attachment, purpose over pursuit, then you are already practicing the highest form of Stoicism there is. So if this message resonates with you, if you feel yourself evolving into the man you were meant to be, like this video, subscribe, and comment below. I rise beyond her.